Welcome to today's mystery. And today's mystery is who killed Brittany Zimmermann in her home. Brittany Zimmermann was a promising 21-year-old University of Wisconsin-Madison student, engaged to her childhood sweetheart. Little did he know, he would find his love brutally slain in their apartment on April 2nd, 2008. She was murdered in the middle of the day, just blocks from the police station. One of the worst parts of this case is that Brittany called 911 and the call was dropped or the dispatcher hung up on her, claiming they heard no signs of struggle. Her parents say they've listened to the tape and you can hear screaming. The Dane County dispatcher never called her back. When police arrived about 40 minutes later, she was dead. A suspect has never been named in the case. David Call, a convicted sex offender jailed for violating probation, was considered a material witness in the slaying of Brittany Zimmermann as of April 22, 2008. Call was convicted of sexual assault in 1993. It said he broke his probation by not registering as a sex offender, hence violating probation. A TV station at that time said Call was not regarded as a suspect. He reportedly told police he entered a house near Zimmermann's apartment the day she was killed near Madison's downtown on April 2nd. He also said he knew two homeless men named Mitchell and Hank who broke into houses and stole cell phones and laptops. He said the pair also tried to con people into giving them money to buy crack by claiming they needed the cash for car repairs. He also helped police create a sketch of one of the men. Because of that, Madison police targeted transient men in their investigation into Zimmermann's death. They arrested about 24 of them for various offenses, hoping DNA evidence would link a suspect to the victim. Officials said a man was caught entering a nearby house just before the killing. A search warrant filed in March of 2015 indicated that in December of 2014, DNA found on Zimmermann's shirt sleeve matched the DNA of David Call, a convicted offender in the FBI DNA database CODIS. Call was reported to be in the area the day Zimmermann was strangled and stabbed to death. Now, it's not clear whether she was both strangled and stabbed or just stabbed, as there are varying reports. Zimmermann's neighbor reported a man entered her home on April 2nd around the same time Zimmermann was found. The man asked for $40 to fix a flat tire, according to the search warrant. She later identified Call as the man she saw and ordered to leave. Less than a half mile away on North Bedford Street, a resident reported a man had solicited $20 from him to fix a flat tire. The man left his Department of Corrections card with the Bedford Street resident as collateral, but never returned. The resident reported the incident to police. The DOC card had Call's name and picture on it, the report said. In 2014, just days after Call's DNA was identified on a piece of Zimmermann's clothing, Madison Police Department detectives traveled to a federal prison in West Virginia to interview Andrew Scholes, who was serving time for illegal gun possession. He claimed that one morning his roommate, David Call, broke down and cheerfully confessed to killing Zimmermann on April 2, 2008 in her apartment. Many tried to get Scholes to come forward with what he knew about the high-profile murder and alleged confession by Call, a convicted rapist, repeat drunk driver, and admitted heavy drug user. In early 2016, Zimmermann's mother sent Scholes a video through his parole officer. In it, she pleaded with him to speak to police. Scholes said he would talk, but he wanted something in return. After watching your video and with great consideration, I told the police I would be willing to cooperate in any and all ways that I could, he wrote to Zimmermann's mother in an email, adding, if the government would give me my life back. Local news outlets later reported that Scholes was seeking a presidential pardon for a 2010 marijuana conviction and expungement of the 2014 federal gun conviction in exchange for details about Call's alleged confession. Scholes wanted his felony record cleared so he could get back 19 guns that were seized from him in the 2014 case. My gun collection was a large part of my life, he said in the email to Zimmermann's mom. Digging his heels in on the demand for a pardon, Scholes stayed silent. Soon his promises of information about Call's alleged involvement in Zimmermann's murder faded away. After getting paroled in 2015, Scholes went on with his life. He worked as a self-employed carpenter and was riding his motorcycle on the country roads between Madison and his home in Cross Plains, while police continued investigating clues about the Zimmermann murder. Then, in early 2017, something began to shake loose. A court document recently unsealed at the request of the newspaper Isthmus shows that Scholes was proposing a new deal, one that didn't demand a pardon in exchange for his information. The unsealed document is an April 26, 2017 letter from Scholes' attorney, Joseph Bugney, to a federal judge detailing Bugney's many efforts to arrange an interview between Scholes and the police. It states that Scholes was willing to testify if Call was prosecuted for Zimmermann's murder. But the letter adds that prosecutors seemed indifferent to meeting with Scholes or facilitating a deal. A month after Bugney first suggested a deal with the Dane County District Attorney's Office, he received word back, communicated through the federal prosecutor. They said I could go pound sand. If Scholes had some information to share about Zimmermann's murder, he could come in off the street like anyone else and give it. I wrote back immediately, hoping that something could be worked out. Bugney kept pressing to set up a meeting with the DA's office, but that door slammed shut when Scholes, at age 39, died on August 5, 2017, from injuries he sustained in a motorcycle accident in mid-July. Exactly where, why, and how this proposed deal fell apart is unknown. No one wants to talk about it. Scholes' attorney, Bugney, declined repeated requests for an interview. The Dane County District Attorney also refused to discuss it, stating, "We are ethically bound not to speak about open investigations." U.S. District Judge James Peterson is the one who initiated talk of a new deal in early 2017, when during a parole hearing he encouraged Scholes to come forward with what he knew. "I brought it up," confirmed Judge Peterson in an interview. "I thought if Scholes had information, it would be appropriate to facilitate the evaluation of that evidence." After that hearing, Bugney met with his client and, as he wrote in the now unsealed letter to Peterson, Scholes expressed a willingness to sit down with the police and talk about what he knew about the murder. Bugney asked three things for his client, according to the unsealed letter: credit for sharing information in his federal case, a copy of police reports from Scholes' initial interview with police in West Virginia, and a letter from prosecutors that would protect him from an obstruction charge. At Bugney's request in February 2017, a federal prosecutor passed this proposal on to the Dane County District Attorney's Office. Since the DA's office had charging authority over the case, it would have to decide whether to accept Scholes' offer. Although Bugney says the district attorney's office showed no interest in a deal, he persisted. According to the unsealed letter, Bugney, quote, reached out to the DA's office about the case and the opportunity to talk through the issues that divided us. I received nothing for over a week. I then started calling the DA's office and leaving messages. A week later, one of the district attorneys called me back and we spoke about the case, unquote. An assistant DA told Bugney his office wouldn't provide a letter protecting schools from obstruction charges. Bugney offered to, quote, send him an email with everything the schools would say and then see if he'd want to hear it from schools, but with the protections I demanded. He said I could send it and he'd see, unquote. Bugney sent the email in April 2017, but notes in the unsealed letter, quote, I have not heard back. So that's where things stand with Scholes and Brittany Zimmermann, unquote. The Dane County Deputy District Attorney Matthew Moser says he may have been the prosecutor who spoke to Bugney about a deal offered by Scholes early last year. Quote, it's certainly possible I spoke to Mr. Bugney, but I honestly don't remember the scope of the conversation, unquote. Adding that he, quote, can't discuss anything regarding the Zimmermann case, unquote. To determine where the proposed deal broke down, the newspaper Isthmus filed an open records request in early January 2018 to Dane County District Attorney's Office for correspondence between the DA's office and Bugney and Scholes' proffer letter. The request went unanswered for almost a month until a reporter showed up at the DA's office in mid-February. Once there, the Dane County District Attorney gave the reporter a written reply asking for more clarification on the request. As of press time of the newspaper Isthmus, the Dane County District Attorney had not responded to further follow-up emails or fax about the records request. The Isthmus sent a similar request to the Madison Police Department. The department's records custodian replied that he received results from the city's email system, but that Deputy District Attorney Moser, quote, advised me that this was a continuing investigation and requested that we not release any records whatsoever related to this case, unquote. Madison defense attorney Stephen Hurley says Bugney was not making any outlandish requests for his client. That's just basic competent client representation, he says, calling them really benign requests. If he got those three things, Scholes would have gone in and talked. Then prosecutors and police would make a determination about if the information is useful. I'd say that about 80% of the time, law enforcement doesn't find the information useful, says Hurley. Hurley says, of deals like the one Scholes' attorney proposed, they're not an everyday thing, but they do happen, usually at the police level. Hurley wouldn't speculate on why the DA's office didn't take the deal, but he adds, quote, one always has to be skeptical of information for sale, unquote. And if all of this did eventually lead to a murder trial, Call's defense would have brought up Scholes' criminal history, which includes numerous misdemeanor convictions for various drugs, weapons, disorderly conduct, and operating while intoxicated charges to discredit him. Hurley says the proffer letter Scholes' attorney sent the DA's office is useless without Scholes being alive to testify. Now he says it's all hearsay. Furthermore, Scholes' motivation for testifying would have been questioned in a trial. Known as Mud or Mudman to his friends, Scholes blamed Call for his original conviction for the 2010 marijuana case, telling Zimmermann's mom in an email, quote, I was made a felon for an ounce and a half of pot, which David had a great part in getting me busted for, unquote. Becky Turk, a friend of Scholes for more than 20 years, says he never told any of his friends what he knew about Zimmermann's murder. Quote, whatever he knew went to his grave with him, unquote. Brittany's mom, Jean Zimmermann, was devastated when she learned that Scholes died last August. Quote, Scholes swore he had all the information police would need, end quote. Kyle is currently serving a prison sentence at the Oshkosh Correctional Institution for his 7th drunk driving conviction, a felony. He may be released as early as November 2021. He did not reply to a certified letter sent to the prison by a reporter seeking comment. Jean Zimmermann says she occasionally gets updates from police, but they become less and less frequent over the decades since her daughter was killed. She was unaware of Scholes' most recent attempt to make a deal. We were never told that that was happening. Maybe they were waiting to see what would come out. I try to remain hopeful that the case will still be solved, she says. But my hope is dwindling. It's been dwindling for a long time. Brittany's dad said she would be a doctor right now. We would be proud of her, and we could go visit her on her animal farm and everything she wanted because she loved animals. That's what we wish, that she could live her life the way she wanted to. Police say the case has not gone cold, and they are still actively working on leads. Brittany's parents want the MPD to classify her case as a cold case so they can hire a private investigator and pursue avenues the police department hasn't gone down. It seems they are feuding a bit with the police regarding the DNA evidence and potential suspects, among other things. Koval said, I'm still honestly, with schools out of the picture, the old school cop in me hopes that loose lips will sink ships. Someone is going to say something to somebody about this case in a bar or overheard, and I think someone will seize upon it and give us another lead. Those are the things you cling to. If you have any information on the Zimmermann homicide or have any information you feel could be important, you can call Madison Crime Stoppers at 608-266-6014. There is still a $40,000 reward fund for answers leading to an arrest. And that's it on the mysterious case of Brittany Zimmermann. It leaves a lot of food for thought. It's very interesting. I do hope that they find some more information and are able to solve this case.